All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, Kay, and I'm joined here on the desk by Dio and T1G. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves for us?
Hi, I'm Dio. I'm a tournament committee member, GMT. I host Perennial, which is the other Tri Badge tournament besides Corsace Open. I've been casting for Corsace Open and Closed since 2020 and OWC since 2021.
And I'm T1G. I host this. I'm TCOM member. I host USC Hippo Cup. Used to host Sweegie until it died off. Very sad. Commentate OWC and stuff as well. I'm not a GMT, unfortunately. That is where Dio and I differ. It is very sad. Um, and I'm here on Full Circle.
We are not live on
We are
Twitch.
not live on Twitch.
Oh,
That is true. We are not live on Twitch.
All right, wonderful.
All right, so really exciting weekend. Quarterfinals had just finished, and we're heading into our semifinal stage. We'll start tomorrow, but the script was rewritten last week during quarterfinals. We had the whole meme of all roads lead to 6-2, and we did have a singular 6-2 happen last week as we head into that recap discussion. We're gonna start off with that 6-2. It's gonna be Window Life versus Intercamping to start us off. And uh, yeah, I think personally, Window Life did play better last week against Malashevsky than he did against Intercamming during quarterfinals, but he still played very, very well despite the circumstances. I just think that being seed 16, got a very unlucky bracket, and going into Intercamming straight from Malashevsky is definitely a tough battle, and he unfortunately had lost.
Yeah, I mean, Intercamping's a really tough opponent in 1v1 for pretty much anyone. He got an early break point on Nomad 5, and from there, Window Life got his next two picks, but lost another break point on the DT3, and that was really all it took. That's a 6-2 for Intercamping. Having that first pick and getting two breakpoints unanswered is enough to win the match. Um, Not a lot of super high scores in this match. There were a couple of really good ones on the Hard Rock 2 and the DT3, but a lot of scores around the 400K mark, which I think you should start to expect more and more as the pools get harder.
yeah. The non-mechanics maps, especially in this pool, were really challenging for anybody that's not a specialist in them, which is why you're seeing the 389k, 243k on the Nomad 4, for instance. Even 400k at 243k on the hidden one. But yeah, this was kind of just like it was already said, right? This was a matter of being 16 seed sucks because you get the number one seed and then you get the loser of the 8 versus 9 seed. So you're getting two probably pretty darn good players. And Intercamping just being generally speaking more well rounded than Window Life. It's a solid win on that Hard Rock 2 pick for Window Life. Nice little combo comeback there at the end. And I think kind of a surprising win on the Nomad 4 as well. But yeah, Intercamping is unfortunately for Window Life at this point in their tournament careers just the better overall player and kind of displayed that this match.
Yeah, and I think, that's pretty much all said and done. Unfortunately, 16 seed, it is what it is, and someone has to go 0-2. As we're gonna move on to the next match, we're gonna go over Zudi, aka Miskitten, versus Neric. That match went pretty storyline, pretty regular for the most part. Both players won their picks pretty handedly until the end, where Zudinator got a break point against Nineric on the no mod 6. And I think, unfortunately, at that point, Nineric just ran out of maps because she had banned the DT2 first. And wow, what a surprise! She bans it against a speed player who's the very opposite of her skill set, and then she eventually bans the no mod 2, which last week I believe was stamina pick. So, it really boiled down to just who had the better options. Personally, I think that, between the last couple maps, between the No Mod 3, No Mod 6, and the Hard Rock 3, I would really love to have seen how the Hard Rock 3 went over something like Deconstruction Star or the No Mod 6.
Yeah, we talked about this last week in the predictions, and Miles and I talked about it a lot when we were casting this match as well. That it really is just a story of two completely diametrically opposed skill sets for these two players, and you saw that play out exactly as you would expect. As you kind of ran through, it's Neric winning the tapping pick, Zudi winning the other stuff, and sooner or later he was the more likely to run out of picks. And I think at the end of the day, with the maps that were left at the end, like it was damned if you do, damned if you don't, because Nineric obviously lost his own pick on the Nomad 6 there, lost Zudi's last pick on the Nomad 3 there. So yeah, maybe the remaining Hard Rock would have been the option, but it felt like none of those were great for him. Sooner or later, he was just liable to run out of picks, and that's precisely what happened. Zudi was just good enough to eke that out with that break point, and this was a really good match, though. In general, I think very very competitive back and forth, which was kind of what we hoped for going in, and definitely ended up getting that.
Yeah, and I think one thing to remember when talking about this last pick is, um, as you said, it's going to be a hard pick to win regardless because none of the picks are going to be particularly good. But Zuniator is a very, very good alt player. We saw that on Deconstruction Star. We've seen that in lots of other tournaments as well. And so picking any sort of alt map into Zudinator is going to be really tough. And my bet is that Neric practiced the Nomad 6 a lot beforehand, kind of knowing that this map would come down to the last pick, as you only have so many options beforehand. There's the Nomad 5, DT2, DT3, DT1, Nomad 2. Two of those are going to be banned. That leaves you with 4 picks. So you need something that she's not going to outright beat you on. And while Zudi is a really good hidden player, she's never been a particularly strong low approach rate player when it comes to open rank 1v1s. And we did see that on the Nomad 6. I mean, neither of these scores are particularly high on Desire Drive. It was 270k versus 216k. So that's a winnable map. Did he win it in match? No. Do I think the pick sucks? Also, probably not. I think this was a probably prepared and practiced pick for an Eric that he happened to lose because Zudinator is the more well-rounded player, and was able to get the break point. If this went to tiebreaker, I actually don't know who I favor. Yeah, it's an alt map, but also the map has 300 BPM bursts and 225 BPM streams in it. So like maybe you favor an Eric because of some of the tapping, maybe you favor Zudi because of the alt aim control strain. I don't really know. I feel like that would have been a really good tiebreaker between these two players.
Really just double taps for real, for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think we're gonna be but yeah, overall really exciting match. Unfortunately Nineric also went 0-2, but someone has to do it. Next match we're gonna be going to Taquito versus a SecretBox, which we kind of expected last week to go this way. Taquito has proven to be a very, very good all-rounder and just a high-level tournament player. And he showed so much of that. His deconstruction star score in match was unparalleled. He held SS for such a long time, and I think like towards the end he kind of knew that he had won the pick, and got a got a couple more misses. Um, we did have to say goodbye, unfortunately, to a secret box. But again, it is what it is. Taquito also banning the DT2 against him, and yeah, a very early 4-0 match, and then a secret box who had won his own DT3 pick after the second ban phase, and then Taquito closed it off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this was a match that a lot of people expected to go this way. I know predictions were a little bit split on the actual score line last
I
week.
wanted to I
Um,
wanted to inhale my copium.
yeah, I know predictions were split on the score line, despite most people just saying, yeah, Taquito's going to win this. Because while Secret Box is a very good player, Taquito is still one of the best tournament players in the game. He beat Taquito on Nomad 2, which was a stamina flow aim stream map at 215 BPM. He beat Secret Box on Hard Rock picks. He was winning on DT aim mechanics. Like, despite his reputation as a hidden tech reading player, there's not much that he can't do, even at an 8-star map pool level.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the discussion that we had going into this when we were doing the predictions last week was what's the angle that SecretBox gets into this match? And we really couldn't come up with much because other than Nomad 2, Taquito's gonna be banning the some of Nomad 5 DT2. And so like if Box couldn't even win Nomad 2, he was kind of in just a rough spot because Taquito is just better at basically everything at this level, unfortunately. Yeah, so this just kind of went how expected. Taquito had some really insane scores, though. Shoutouts the Hard Rock 2 FC, and obviously that unreal play on Deconstruction Star. Obviously ended up with the funny number, but two 100s, one of them, and a 50, like us, and two misses. Like that act was absurd. That was one of the coolest things
Yeah.
that I saw outside of Forum FCing that map all weekend. So yeah, this was just another match that went, I think, basically as we anticipated to for most people watching, I think, and predicting it.
Yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate to see another player go. My heart breaks every time someone goes 0-2, but I'm gonna be a broken record. I'm gonna keep saying it because it makes me feel a little better. But yeah, we're gonna be going on to our next match, Chicone versus Scroll. That match ended up going 6-3, and I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about this map because obviously the two of them are friends. So realistically, right, I think they would know what to pick. But that match went really, really weird. Like obviously Scroll's gonna ban the DT2 and then Chicone banned the Nomad 6. And then it was like Chicone had won the first three picks and then Scroll won the next three and then Chicone closed it out by winning the last three. So it was definitely weird with the trading of the break points.
Yeah, it was an early hidden 2 breakpoint for Chicone, and then breakpoint back on Nomad 2 for Scroll. Both of those were very, very close. Their early picks were not super close when they did win them. Like full combo on DT1 for Chicone versus 700k for Scroll. Full combo for Chicone on Nomad 5, which is a really good score, versus 480k for Scroll. And then same for Scroll, 770k on the hidden 3 versus 345k from Chicone, and 380k versus 280k on the Nomad 4. That map's just hard. And then Chicone wins his own pick twice and also takes a breakpoint on hidden 1 by 160k and wins the whole match. So moral of the story, don't play Chicone on Hard Rock and don't pick hidden aim mechanics into him, because apparently even on AR9, he can still do very well on the awkward aim hidden mechanics.
I feel like this match, like low key, hinged on that first break point for Chicone on the hidden 2. Like I never in a million years would expect Chicone to win an air 8 hidden pick against Scroll. And having that early 3-0 advantage, like I think even though Scroll came back and won the next 3 points, like the match is just different if it's 2-2 at the break instead of 3-1, right? Maybe Scroll takes a little more momentum, and who knows? But other than that, yeah, I think it's again like a situation where it's just a player winning their own picks and getting the one or two extra, like better than expected performances, right? Because I think you anticipate Chicone winning the Hard Rocks, but winning two out of the three hiddens in this matchup was pretty surprising. I doubt Scroll expected that, and I certainly didn't expect that, and that's what made the difference in the match. So it's unfortunate Scroll couldn't quite get where he needed to with the hidden two and hidden one and the hidden two, but other than that, Chicone just, the superior player on the other skill sets and gave him the opportunities to push ahead in this match and end up winning it.
Yeah, we did have to say Guadag's girl, but he played pretty okay nonetheless. And we're going to be moving on to our winners bracket matches from quarterfinals. We're going to be starting off with Malashevsky versus Kriller. And for this match in particular, I just felt so bad for Kriller because looking at the statistics, he was number 2 for multiple maps, losing to Malashevsky. And had he gone against any other player, basically, he would have won And I think that's such a sad storyline because Kriller had some crazy scores that match, and the only point that he had won was on the DT3 versus Malashevsky, and I think that I don't know, I just really feel for the guy because it was just an unlucky bracket situation. You place ninth, you win against Enry only to go up against Malashevsky the week after. Like
Yeah, that's
he
what you get when you're 8th or
yeah.
ninth in the bracket,
Yeah.
Yeah, you
is
get
you
number
get to
one
play
seed in the second round.
Malashevsky in round of
Yeah,
16,
it's like
like
really it's just, it is what
It
it
is
is.
what it is. I like while I do give plenty of credit to Kriller for the performance, like what is Malashevsky on some of these scores, man? The Nomad 4 FC, like that map is so hard. Like 558k is such a good score, and Malashevsky just like looks at that passing him by in the rear view mirror, like see ya. And the FC on the Hard Rock 1 with 99 plus accuracy, and then one miss on the DT1, like those are quite different maps, right? You've got an absurdly hard tech map. You've got a really like awkwardly difficult aim and a little tapping HR map, and then you've got the aim and bursty DT map. Like a lot of different stuff going into those. So Malashevsky just shows out like every time what he is capable of is nearly limitless. And even like these close maps, right? You know, sneaking the victory on the Nomad 6 and just barely. I mean, Kriller got that point on DT3 by 26k. Like even that Malashevsky was that close. So just another day at the office, I suppose, for the most dominant player we've seen in quite some time.
yeah, I mean, you're going up against somebody who has been at least considered in the conversation for, if not the best tournament player in the world for the last 2 years or so. And he's certainly not going anywhere anytime soon. So don't know what else you expect besides Malashevsky to win most of the matches early on in the bracket stage. He's just that good and that consistent. That's why he was seed one out of qualifiers, and he earns himself an easier than usual bracket because of it. Not to say that any of the players he's facing are bad, because they're actually in courses closed, which is you have to be at a certain level to get there anyway. But certainly you would rather not face worst HR player in round of 16. You would rather face probably most other players in the tournament in round of 16.
Yeah, it's just a really unfortunate situation for Kriller, and we will cover his match in our next segment later. But we're going to be moving on to another 6-1 of the weekend, the last 6-1 of the weekend. Enry versus Flying Tuna. I think that I know Tuna had some issues during his match. He complained about frame drops or something, and we did have like a short pause for it so he could restart his game. But I don't think he played all that badly. And some of them were really, really close. DT1, for example, like a score difference of 30,000. And I think it's another situation where had Tuna gone against some of the other players, it would have been a lot better for him. And it's kind of, it's kind of unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, this is again a situation where you are up against somebody who, depending on who you ask, is like a top 4 tournament player in 1v1s in the world right now, and I think is pretty easily showing that. Enry was top 3 on every single map in this match except for DT3 this weekend. The one map that he lost is also the one map where he was not top 3 for the weekend. So, pretty
And
good scores.
and
Pretty
even
good
that
scores.
and even that map was he had a 99.2 AC 1 miss.
Yeah.
So like he's, a cursor away from being right at the top of that one too.
Yep. And that's why you frequently see him at the top of other big 1v tournaments, 1v1 tournaments throughout the year, like the Emre Grandmaster Cup last year or Corsairs Closed last year, right? Like, he's just really good. He's one of the players who's expected to make it pretty far into the tournament, and is showing that off here. Flying Tuna also had a lot of really good scores, right? You see number 5 on the DT1. That score difference, as Kay said, was only 30k. Top 6 on the Hard Rock one with 660k. Top 3 on the Hidden 2 with 500k. But you're up against somebody who is top 3 on every map except for the one map that you happen to win in that matchup. So it's going to be a hard match no matter who you are. And that's why these players are in winners bracket in the semifinals, right? Is that they are just that good and that consistent at every map in the pool.
Yeah. Also, like this match it's interesting looking at this scoreline because it's like equal parts super close and kind of not that close. If you look at the last two maps, which were both determined by 30,000 points, and the DT1 Tuna would have won with better AC. He lost due to a 2% accuracy difference. But if you look at those two, it's like super, super close. And then if you look at some of the early maps, it's like, oh, here's a 400k score diff, here's a 500k score diff. So kind of an interesting match in that regard. But yeah, it's just Enry being a little better. What can you do? Yeah, you said it all. Like, what can you do?
Yeah, it's just hard, and I know Tuna unfortunately had to face some technical issues, but like you just gotta roll with the punches at that point. We're gonna be moving on to our next winners bracket match, which was quite the upset because worst HR player won against Emre. Seating wise, it's technically considered an upset because worst HR player was seed number two. Or sorry, I mean, or like we expected Emre, who had
Emre won last year.
yeah,
He's the defending
won
champion.
last year.
Emre is
Like
Yeah.
Emre. Like that. Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
talk about we'll talk about his bracket later and his matchups later, but like last week I did vote for worst HR player to win the match just because Korean Pride. I didn't expect him to actually win. Not gonna lie. He's a talented player. He's a lovely player. And he is so incredibly good at the game. You've seen his scores on Twitter and whatnot. But going up against Emre is like, it's like kind of like the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. And that tiebreaker was something else.
I'm just gonna say this real quick. Sorry, Dio.
Go ahead.
This match with a correctly pooled Nomad 5 is a 6-1 MREC. Like if you look at the
I didn't pool this.
No,
bro.
I'm not blaming you.
That's not me.
No,
Don't put me on this.
You were just not blaming you. You were just starting to talk. That's all. Like if this is a normal Nomad 5, this match is a 6-1 and it's just over and we don't get any of this because Emrek was up 4-1, right? Lost 1 point, won the next one. So he's up 5-2 and it should have been 6-1 right there. But instead, somehow, some way, Forum wins the Nomad 5 and then just stages this ludicrous comeback where he wins like Hard Rock 3, not even close. Hard Rock 1, fairly close. Then FC's Deconstruction Star. If Emmerich wins the Nomad 5, we don't get Worst HR FCing Deconstruction Star in match, by the way. Yep. And then tiebreaker I was shocked to see that being quite so one-sided. I did not anticipate that going the way it did, but what can you do? Forum, very good alt player, as it turns out. But it's just weird to think about like what could have happened with this match based on literally one map at the very start. Like the first map of the match is the reason that the rest of the match went the way it did.
Yeah, and then after that, just looking through the maps on the stats sheet real quick, the thing that stands out to me the most is that Hidden was the only hidden map they played was Hidden 3. That was the only one that was unbanned, I assume. That went the way of Emrek. DT, both the unbanned DT maps went the way of Emrek. He top scored both of them for the weekend. Nomad was split, which you kind of expect, maybe not in the way that it was split, but Nomad was split, which you expect between the two players, right? All three Hard Rock maps went the way of Forum. So, like, if Emrek is typically thought of as a very good Hard Rock player, right? Had Hard Rock PP record for some time. I don't know if he still does, but had it at one point, if not still has it, and dropped 500k or below on all three Hard Rock maps. And Forum is able to take advantage and win them. He top scored the Hard Rock 3. Sure, it's an alt map. Okay, you get a pass for that one. But then, like, the Hard Rock 1 going the way of worst HR player, I think is really unexpected. So I feel like even the Nomad 5 aside, other things in this match going the way of Forum all were a big deal leading up to the tiebreaker. because you don't get to tiebreaker without that Hard Rock 1 win for Forum, and you don't get to tiebreaker without that Nomad 5 win for Forum. And I feel like those two are the two like really big unexpected wins for worst HR player. That said, there were also some maps where I really would not have expected Emre to win, and he was able to get points, like on the Nomad 4, on the Hidden 3. I really do not expect Emre to win that Hidden 3 against worst HR player, and he still is able to. So I think there's a couple of maps on both sides where you can point at it and be like, wow, that is a really unexpected breakpoint, particularly the Nomad 4 and the Hidden 3 for Emre, and the Nomad 5 and Hard Rock 1 for worst HR player. So really, really good close match throughout. Kind of variable score placement for both players. You have a few maps where Emre is number 1, a few maps where worst HR player is number 1 on the weekend, and a few maps where either of them or both of them are like down in the middle of the pack, like a top 8 or a number 13 for worst HR player on DT3. So really two completely different players, and the fact that this match went as close as it did, even all the way to tiebreaker, is just very cool to see with how early this was as well.
This was the first match of the week.
Yeah.
And it was the best match of the week.
Yeah, Saturday, 11 UTC.
Yeah, boo.
Yeah.
11
Boo,
Sorry,
11, boo, 7 a.m.,
Americans.
boo.
Sorry, Americans. Yeah, the match overall was just really insane because, like, you know, like you said earlier, Emre had this insane 5-2 lead, and, you know, the Nomad, like, we had a lot of unexpected points in Nomad 5, but, you know, that is up for contention later on, and that's quite simply not our job to talk about later. Miles will probably touch on that later, but he unfortunately is not on this episode. He was a bit busy. As we're gonna close off our our recap, and lead into predictions with this match, MCY4 versus Decon. This was interesting because Decon won he banned out Nomad 6. Wow, color me surprised, and MCY4 had banned the Nomad 1. Decon won on Hidden 3, but proceeded to lose the next 3 maps, basically, like Nomad 2, DT2, DT3. And then he got another point, so it was like relatively, you know, back up, getting a little bit of momentum with the 3-2. And then MCY4 got 2 break points. Decon followed up with the return break point, and then won his own Hard Rock 1 pick, and then MCY4 closed out the match on Nomad 3. And I think that match could have easily gotten to tiebreaker. It could have absolutely gotten to tiebreaker, and I don't know, like, some of these scores were, you know, decently close. And I think the DT2 was a little funny because, you know, that was the only time the DT2 was played and both players couldn't really play it.
Yeah.
She just stole my line. You go ahead,
Oh,
Dio.
my bad. My bad.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Oh my
yeah, the DT2 scores are funny. I mean, I feel like that's also the only time it gets left up, right? Because if one player can play it, if one person in the match can play it really well, you're obviously banning it versus them because it's by far the hardest tapping map in the pool. If both players can play it really well, sometimes the other player is just better at other stuff and will just want to ban it out anyway because it's maybe one of the only things that the opponent has over them. So in a match like this where neither player is particularly good at speed or streams, you just get scores like 150k and 370k on the map with 80 and 90 AC respectively, which is always kind of funny to think about, that none of the like really good players get to play it like in team tournaments, but it's how it is sometimes. I guess the only other thing I have to say about this is that I think a lot of this is kind of as expected. You have Decon winning on most of the Hard Rock picks that are actually left up. Maybe the Hidden 3 win for Decon is a little unexpected. But a lot of this, I think, is, I don't actually know who picked that. Probably
Hidden 3, Decon picked that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, still a slightly unexpected win for me, at least. MCY4, I feel like, is probably advantaged on Hidden, although neither of them are like hidden mains either. So
I would not have expected Decon to pick a Hidden 3, but if it works, it works.
If it works, it works. I think the biggest travesty is Decaton's disconnect on Nomad 3, because yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. No, he didn't disconnect. He accidentally pressed escape during the match. But I think if I remember correctly, he
Did he
had
DC
lost by like
on?
a pretty significant amount.
He
Did
did
DC
DC on
DT1?
DT1. That score is on the stats sheet though. He
I
did
Oh, the
end up
DT1.
Yeah, he did end up winning the DT1. He had 793K versus the 595K
I should
from
know this. I did
MCY4.
the stats. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is like a hard one to look at the MP for because there's like 2 different
Yep.
missing scores. Um,
Um.
eh, happens.
Yeah, I should know this, but I don't. Oopsies.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a match like this is really hard to predict. We saw a lot of really close scores, some that were a little more one-sided, but a lot of scores that were within 200K or so of each other, and a lot of scores within 100K as well, which I think is kind of expected for a matchup like this, where the players have a relatively similar skill set. Both of them are pretty good at a lot of the same things. Maybe you favor tech and alt slightly more for MCY4, but if it's hard rock, you favor Taquito a little more, right? Like, a lot of these are very, very close scores and very, very close maps. And that's what we got out of this match, which made this a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think everybody in predictions anticipated this to be pretty close for exactly the reasons you're just talking about. So it was nice to see it end up working out that way.
Yeah, it was still a really, really, really exciting match, and I'm very happy that, despite it being a 6-4, it was so nice to watch. And with that, we're going to wrap up our recap. We're going to be bringing on 2 more people for our semifinals predictions. And for those who don't know how this works, we're going to have the panel decide who we think we're going to win. And for potentials, the winner of that will be put on instead. So, that's why we have an odd number of people. So the first match we're going to be going over, actually, if we can switch to awesome, cool. We're going to switch over to predictions for semifinals. We're going to be bringing on 2 more people, Taikani and Wardy. Taikani and Wardy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm an Australian who has a brick sleep schedule and is awake at 4 a.m. for these. What's up?
Welcome.
Welcome.
I have a normal sleep schedule. I'm here at a normal time for me. I'm Taquito, commentator Matt Poole. Hello.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here with us, guys, as we head into semifinals. We're going to start this match up with Kriller versus Chicone, and oh boy, I feel like these two are very, I don't want to say opposite, but they definitely have quite jarring advantages with each other. Namely, the hidden with Kriller is going to be such a tough battle, so I'm immediately expecting an early band of hidden from Chicone, and Kriller might probably will ban out like something super tapping intensive. Oh my god, like the DT2 or the Noma 5 this week. So I think overall though, Kriller put out some nut scores last week, and I don't think that he's going to backtrack on that anytime soon. And for that, I think it's going to be close regardless, but I'm going to go. By the way, it's still best of 11, guys. I'm going to go 6-4 Kriller.
I think I probably mostly agree. I feel like this pool is maybe slightly worse for Chicone than last week's pool. You don't really have the same kind of like fast, snappy, awkward aim hard rock 1. It's replaced with something really, really low BPM in the 182 BPM hard rock 1 this week. You still have the kind of gimmicky alt map hard rock 3. The hidden pool is, of course, going to be good for Kriller as well. And then to top it off, the Nomad 2 is less stamina focused than last week, more flow aim focused instead. So I think this pool is just better for Kriller than for Chicone. I feel like last week's pool was a little bit better for mechanics players, with the Hard Rock 1 being a little more straightforward, the DT2 Nomad 5 being pretty much pure tapping, the Nomad 2 being pretty much pure tapping. So you have a lot of kind of more straightforward maps to go off if you are a mechanics player, and obviously the Nomad 1, the Hard Rock 1, the DT1 all being relatively straightforward as well. So I think just based off the pool, like if you look at their scores from last week, a lot of it is really, really close. Same for if you're looking at scores from the round of 16 or from qualifiers. Like, these players are very close in skill level, but I think overall the pool here is going to favor Kriller more. So I'll say like 6 3 Chicone, just accounting for the bans. Like, I still think there are maps for Chicone to win, but not
6-3
like
6-3 Kriller.
yeah, Kriller. Sorry.
Okay, all right, just
Yes.
Yeah, this is like the standard sort of match. It feels like we've seen a lot of these where it's like a super like tapping mechanics player against a everything else player.
The duality
Like,
of man.
we've just had so many of these over the course of the tournament already. And yeah, like Dio said, you know, Chicone maybe wins like Nomad 2, Nomad 5, DT1, DT2, but Kriller bans 2 of those anyway. So, and the Kriller just wins like all of the gimmick, wins all of the hiddens, and can probably contend like DT3 as well. And Hard Rock 1 is like an ulti tapping thing. Hard Rock 3 is alt. Hard Rock 2 is like precision aim. So the Hard Rock pool doesn't really cater to a player like Chicone as well this week, as Dio was saying. I don't really know how he gets more than a few points against Kriller in this matchup. So yeah, this is like 1 or 2 breakpoints. We'll say 6-3 as well in favor of Kriller.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement on the 6-3 for the reasons stated. Like, yeah, the pool is just better for Kriller this week. I don't really think there's much for me to add on to that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do think 6-3 is pretty accurate. I think there's 4 picks that are definitely Chicone favored. You have the Nomad 2, Nomad 5, DT1, and DT2. 2 of those will likely get banned, so he can only pick 2. Assuming he wins them, probably wins 1 more thing just from, you know, playing that map well or something from the Hard Rock pool, most likely. But other than that, Kriller, I think, is just advantaged on most things. And with how he played Hard Rock, like he played the Hard Rock 1 last week, getting 800k, I think, even on Hard Rocks, he's favored. So unless Chicone has a crazy day and Kriller really underperforms, I do think this should go to Kriller, probably 6-3.
All right, we're pretty across the board, 6-3 for Kriller. And I'm the only one voting 6-4, but moving on. Our next match is going to be Tuna versus Taquito, and some insider information. Tuna is not going to be home on Saturday, and we had offered him. We had actually offered him to play today had the circumstances like really not worked out for him. But he's like, "Oh, the PC is better at the hotel." I don't know how a hotel has a better PC than your home setup, but more power to you, bro.
Korea moment.
Korea moment, I guess. Like, Tuna, please get a better PC. Like, I don't know, man. But we're gonna, and he's also playing at 7. He's playing at 17 UTC.
I don't question. It's
Okay, here's the thing, guys. 17 UTC, by the way, is 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're gonna assume by convention that it goes about an hour. So he's gonna be playing from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, I just don't know what that man is on, but you know what? I'm here for it. If he somehow, you know, wins that, like, you know, does super well, like, superpowers, I don't know. Korea buff, extra PC. I don't know.
You say all that, but there's an Australian here from 4:30 to 5:30 in the morning.
Look, Vorty has had the bricked up sleep schedule since the beginning of time. I have known this man for a couple months now, and like, I have just assumed that this guy has like the sleep schedule sent either from hell or from heaven. It depends on which one.
It's from hell. You're awake at 4:30 in the morning. It's from hell.
Yeah, but moving on to the actual prediction, Oh, this is like really hard though, because they're both really good at hidden. They're both really good at tech. I think Taquito edges out speed over Tuna, and I think like overall the mechanics, I also think that Taquito wins on that. But it's still really, really hard, especially considering that Tuna's not going to be at home. Ah, man, this is such a hard decision. So because of that, I'm not going to go first. I'm gonna let Woody go first.
I mean, yeah, for this matchup, like, with how Taquito played the first week against Emre, didn't have the best match, didn't seem to be in the best mental. I wasn't sure how well he was going to go into the second week, but he obviously performed extremely well. I think getting the 3rd highest overall average score and performance score, just behind Enry. Well, not just behind Enry. Enry and Malashevsky are kind of in the league of their own there. But in the tier below that, you have Taquito, sort of by himself. And yeah, played insanely well against Box, just all around really, really good player in that match. And assuming we get it's basically the question, if we get a performance like that again, and Taquito's scaling is really good. So you can expect that to be the case for this round as well. Then I don't know. I think it's gonna be really, really tough for Box. I think Taquito.
Box? You mean Tuna?
Sorry, not Box. Sorry, not
The,
Box.
the eliminated Box making
Yeah.
his return.
Sorry. I got
He invited him
mixed up
back.
because he eliminated Box last week. For Tuna, I mean, it's gonna be really tough because, I think Taquito's advantaged on tapping for sure. Now the tapping's a bit weird in this pool. It's not super stamina heavy. Like Nomod 2 has like one really big stream. Other than that, it's not too stamina heavy. Nomod 5 is pretty brutal. That has some pretty insane strain at 259. I don't know if Tuna's gonna be as comfortable at that, but it also has some aim, which is good for Tuna notably. But yeah, with how Taquito's been playing, I don't know. I'm gonna go like Taquito 6-3 just because I'm expecting him to play this weekend like he did last weekend. But if he plays like he did against Emre for whatever reason, which I don't think he will, I think that's just the Emre debuff. Everybody's got it. But
Except for Forum, apparently, and also
yeah, except for
yeah,
Forum and a few others. But yeah, if he plays like he did last weekend, it's not going to be easy for Tuna to really take many points.
Yeah, Taikani.
Taikani?
Oh,
Yeah, let's just go this
sorry.
way. This way.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough for Flying Tuna. But Taquito looked really promising on this map pool again, and I don't know how to feel about the hotel setup. I don't know how much I trust that the hotel setup's better, but I guess I have to believe when the time comes. But I definitely agree. Taquito just has more of an outright advantage. Flying Tuna, somewhat behind Taquito in terms of stats. So it's like I would favor Taquito in this. Maybe 6-4. I want to see a closer match personally. But yeah, I'd say Taquito wins overall.
This is such a tough one. I actually feel like this is just super, super close because I think Taquito will have the advantage on like certain of the gimmicky stuff, but Tuna is like a very good tech player, for instance. A very solid aim player as well. He's gotten a lot better at tapping as well. We've seen Tuna having some success on some tapping maps in this tournament so far that, historically he's not been quite as strong on. So I think those might be more contested than they may have been in the past. That being said, I think, man, this is like, I wish I could pick Tuna, and I just don't know that I can, because I think Taquito just will have a map somewhere, or it goes to tiebreaker, and I think this TB being like this tapping control among other skill sets, but it's got a lot of this kind of awkward tapping-y stuff going on in it. I think that suits Taquito really well. So let's just say screw it. It's Taquito tiebreaker 6-5.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be pretty close. You look at their scores throughout the last week. If Taquito plays like he did last week, I don't think it's close. I think it's like 6-2 if he plays like he did last week. But if you look at their scores throughout the tournament instead, there are tapping maps in this tournament where Flying Tuna is beating Taquito. There are tech maps in this tournament where Taquito is beating Flying Tuna. There are aim maps and reading maps going both ways. There's gimmick maps going both ways, alt maps going both ways, depending on the mod. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is just super close and pretty much impossible to call off the bat. I think it depends how well Tuna is adjusted to the setup, how well Taquito plays. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. If you told me to go first, I would have just put Taquito, but just so that we have one person split to show that it is actually a close match, I'll go Flying Tuna here, also on tiebreaker. Like, if you asked me to go first, I would just say Taquito. But
I don't know if Tuna can win it if it's on tiebreaker. I think Tuna has to win it before tiebreaker. It's Dream Theater Panic Attack.
I do not even know that map.
It's a
250 BPM
it's
speed.
a Rectagon map. No, it's not. It's a lot of it's not mapped in like 1-2, 1-4 rhythm. It's a lot of weird. It's Dream Theater, so it's a lot of like polyrhythms and time signature changes and stuff. It's got yeah. I'm just putting that out there. Like, if you weren't familiar with the map, it's a super wonky, but it's a super Taquito map. I'm pretty sure
they can both play that. They're both good at that. I'll still say Tuna on tiebreaker just
Fair
for the
enough.
split panel.
Um,
I don't know. This is a very close match.
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of the players, I think it's gonna be a very close map. It's gonna be really hard. But Hanguk Pride, Flying Tuna, 6-5. That's my vote.
All right, never mind. Change me to Taquito. Put me back.
Dude,
Put me
I
back
was
on Team USA.
okay. Wait, hold on. Oh, I wish we had DOK Kona. Shit.
Surely.
But yeah, I
Surely
mean,
have the hat
oh,
somewhere.
yeah, I will vote Tuna.
Oh,
But
it's over there. Hold on. I'm not
Okay.
getting that.
okay.
We have
Yeah,
at least,
but
I mean, we've all said like it's going to be close, and we have at least one pick for Tuna. So I think
Yep.
everybody has like the expectation of it being a good match.
yeah, so with that, how the potentials are gonna work is that who the panel decides for the first match and the second match will be pinned up against each other. So for the potential, we're gonna be voting Kriller versus Taquito, and that will be our prediction. So if
Oof.
this happens,
Ooh.
dude, wait, hold on, I'm gonna. Yeah, this is so coin flip that I'm just gonna ask Google to flip a coin real quick. We'll go heads for Kriller and T in Taquito stands for tails. Hey Google, flip a coin. Okay, it
100
landed on
people's
heads. I'm
phones
gonna go.
just flipped a coin.
I don't have my wallet. Okay, it landed on heads, so I'm gonna go Kriller and I'm gonna go 6-5.
I think this is actually more Taquito favored a little bit. Like, I think this is kind of the same match as we just saw. But I also think that Taquito has speed more over Kriller than over Flying Tuna, because Flying Tuna has had like some better performances on some of the tapping maps. Whereas Kriller is one of the few players in the tournament that you can like truly speed abuse. Um, so I think that this is going to be a little bit more Taquito favored. I think he can actually play the role of a speed tapping mechanics abuser in this match. And I think it's going to be Taquito like 6-3 or 4, only because he has that speed tapping advantage more so over Kriller than over Tuna. And obviously, the difference between this match and one where we're comparing, say, Neric or Window Life, like last week, is that Taquito is also very good at a lot of the things Kriller is good at. So there's not like guaranteed picks for Kriller a lot of the time in this match, as there are for Taquito on, I think, a lot of the tapping picks.
We go back again to the situation though where there's really like 3-4 tapping picks and 2 of them can get banned. So like I don't actually think being tapping favored takes you like straight to the win. Like it's not like it's just over.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
You still have to win other stuff, and I think they're very, very close in a lot of other skill sets, as you said. Yeah, this one is equally coin flip for me though. Like even assuming that Taquito wins whatever tapping maps are left available, every other pick in this match feels like it could practically go either way. Like like you said, like there's just not a skill set that feels genuinely favored extensively one way or the other. I think I'm going to agree and pick Taquito, and it's like 6-4, but that's kind of contingent on him playing as well as he did last weekend against Box. This is a situation where I would love to know their form like after one match each before making a prediction on their matchup against each other. Because it's just really hard otherwise. But I think based on last weekend, I think Taquito just has a super slight edge. Like he'll get a break point, and that's going to be the difference in the match. Otherwise, it's dead even.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Yeah, the pool, like, it can go either way, I think. I really do think both of these players have a really good chance on this pool. But just looking at, like, previous results, I was looking a lot at Corsairs Close 2023. And I want to say Kriller made it barely farther than Taquito, but also lost to the same player that Taquito did, the same score line. Like, that's how close these two are, even in this one tournament. But I do think that there's just that slight edge that you have to give to Taquito. I mean, obviously, I think it's worth considering how he played last week, and if he plays that same way this week, Kriller's in trouble. But yeah, I agree with all like previous points that Pool just slightly in favor of Taquito here for still a close match, but a Taquito win.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think Kriller should be advantaged on both the reading maps most likely, but one of those probably gets banned, so he only gets to play one. Overall, Hidden's close because Kriller and Taquito are both so good at Hidden. Hard Rock is probably pretty contested as well. I mean, but also with how Kriller played Hard Rock last weekend, they didn't overlap on the two Hard Rocks they played, and Taquito did FC the Hard Rock too, so they're both pretty good at Hard Rock. So yeah, it's very contested, and as you mentioned before, Taquito is most likely advantaged on the tapping maps by quite a good margin. So there's at least 2 picks if the other 2 tapping maps get banned. I mean, part of me, logically speaking, and this is as Tig said as well, like I wish I could make this prediction after seeing how both of them played their first match, but something in my soul just says to say Kriller, and I don't really know what that is. This is one of those picks where it's like maybe slightly illogical, but you know those picks work sometimes. So I'm gonna go Kriller wins on tiebreaker, just because I think he'll have the dog in him in the match.
The dog in him.
That dog in him. That's
The
valid, dude.
the German Shepherd
Yep.
will be unleashed.
Who's
The
got the
German
ball?
Let's go.
Shepherd will be unleashed. That is a crazy statement.
It's a line.
that
Bars.
actually goes really hard.
Bars.
I'm not gonna bars.
Oh
Yeah,
my
we're gonna-
God.
What the fuck is happening?
Oh
He has the visual.
What the
He has
fuck
the
We're
am I
bringing
doing?
it back. Let's go.
Oh my
my
God.
God.
Oh my god. Okay.
footage of Kriller
Fucking
against
jump
Taquito
scare.
in
Yeah,
5-5 on
we're gonna-
tiebreaker.
Me when I go in for me, Kriller when he goes in for an X-ray after winning this match.
True. But yeah, we're gonna move on to our other set of the losers bracket. We're gonna start off with Emre versus Zudi Nader. I think that after the loss that Emre suffered from last week, he got a lock in. You know, you're going from a previous winner into the losers bracket in semifinals. Like it's only an uphill battle from there, and I don't know. I definitely see Emmerich locking in, and I don't think that Zudi beats him, unfortunately. So I'm gonna go like 6-2. Zudi, 6-2. Emmerich winning.
I don't have stats or score lines or anything for this. I have a general talking point that I'm going to bring up. I think Emrek is going to win the tournament. I still think that despite his loss last week. So I'm going to predict him to win. But as the pools get harder, Emrek gets better. We saw it last year. We saw it in Roundtable. We've seen it in a bunch of different tournaments in Open Rank 1v1s. As the pools get harder and harder, Emrek gets better and better and outscales basically everyone in the world. So it's semifinals this week instead of quarterfinals. Point being, he can only go up from here. So I think he just wins this match, and I think he my opinion is he's still the favorite to win the tournament as the returning champion.
Yeah, it has to suck being Zudinator in open rank 1v1s because Malashevsky plays every open rank 1v1. Emrek plays most of the big open rank 1v1s. Enry plays all the open rank 1v1s, and she can't beat any of them. And that has to suck, but it is what it is. There is just a bar, and they are here, and she is here. And unfortunately, that's just how it goes. I don't foresee she is an incredible player in a lot of ways, but just has not improved that little bit to find a way in against those guys. And this is going to be no exception. Pools keep getting harder. Emrek keeps getting better. And has Zudi ever beaten Emrek in a 1v1? Like, I don't see it.
No, they don't play against each other all that often. I usually see it Malashevsky versus Zudi. Yeah, that's what I usually see.
Yeah.
Also, let's not forget that Zudi's playing at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, that's obviously
What?
fine for her because she willingly scheduled to that time. Like, I'm gonna
think she's
give her that
nuts
one.
for that. Holy crap.
Yeah, her
Yeah, that's
her
wild.
sleep schedule has got to be some crazy. I don't know what her like job, her work schedule, her is like, but yeah, that's
She got so
nuts.
accustomed to tournaments that she's like, I gotta get on that 14 UTC grind.
But I'm gonna not hold that as like a necessarily a downside because she opted into it. So like you have
Yeah.
to assume that she knows what she's doing on that one. But unfortunately, I just don't think at this point in their relative careers she's good enough to win this matchup. Like, it just is what it is.
Yeah. Say it as much as we can. It's unfortunate. Great player, not happening. It's just like she just gets beat by Emre. I mean, we're reaching the point in difficulty where the scaling will really, really show. And, talented aim player as she is, she's up against Emre, who's been known for years and years for being talented aim player #1. So it's I don't foresee any path that Zudi has to win this match, unfortunately.
Guys, here's how Zudi wins.
Oh
Here
my
we go.
god.
Okay, Zudi contacts Rairiku. Okay, she bribes him to install cheats on Emrek's computer. Emrek warms up for the match, gets banned, and
Oh my
then wins by default. There it is. There's the Zudi win. It's easy. It's just that easy.
Yeah,
Um,
Zudi should just send an EMP to Australia. Thoughts?
no,
All
but
of it?
I mean, to be fair though, I think Zudi had a few solid scores last week, so I think she'll probably get a point at least, maybe even 2, depending on how prepared Emrek is. Like Emrek getting 369k compared to Zudi's 546k on Deconstruction Star, that feels like Emrek just not being fully ready for the map. Like I think he can definitely do a lot better than that, but Zudi also played the map pretty well, so I'm gonna guess 6-1, assuming Emrek, is like, okay, I'm in loser's bracket, I can't like muck around now, I have to try. Assuming that happens, then yeah, guessing 6-1 for Emrek, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Emre.
there will be points for Zudi. She has Nomad 2 as well. I think she's #1 on that map, if I remember right. But like,
Has Emrek played that map?
I don't even probably. Yes, in fact, they're #1 and #2 respectively.
Oh, of course.
That's
So
funny.
that's gonna be close. But yeah, I mean, like, there's maps where she is going to win points, I think, but definitely, I think there's just more of them for Emrek.
Yeah. Salutations, Zudi. We will see you next year, hopefully. And we're gonna be moving on to the last of our winners bracket matches before our potential. It's gonna be Decon versus Inner Cambing. And I don't want to go first, so I'm gonna. Where do you go first?
Whoa, relax.
Okay,
Okay.
fine. Dio go first.
No,
We'll
no,
go-
no. I got.
Feels good.
Yeah,
Their report is good. He's got it.
I got this. Guys. Yeah, Decon did play better last weekend than he did the first weekend. Obviously, first weekend he did win 6-2, but like that was him. That was like the 15th overall performance up against the 16th overall performance. Last weekend he played a decent amount better, getting 13th overall versus Inner Cambing's 10th overall. I feel like so far Inner Cambing, like yeah, he did play last weekend better, and I think overall Inner Cambing is just going to be more well-rounded. Like if you look at the head-to-heads, you do have Decon playing tech notably quite a lot better than Intercamping, and doing a bit better on the hidden one. I think it's going to be decently close, but I want to say Intercamping on like DT is generally going to be better. I think Intercamping is going to be better on speed, not because Intercamping is necessarily like the best speed player ever, but he's pretty good at speed, and I don't think Decon is going to be able to match it as well. So I think it's going to be a similar situation where if Decon bans two speed maps, Intercamping picks the other 2. After that point, I think it's going to be pretty close. Like, I think this is going to be a close matchup for sure. I can see this going like 6-4, maybe even tiebreaker. But I feel like overall, Intercamping just has a bit more picks. And the lead on tapping is going to secure him a few points that'll hopefully make the difference for him. So they're going to go Intercamping 6-4 here.
Yeah, it's a pretty like close looking match. I agree. I do think Inner Cambing, as you said, does have the advantage on tapping, and even though there's not as much tapping in this pool as you might expect, I still think there's enough for Inner Cambing to have a solid baseline of picks to go with. I would actually dare say it might be 6-3. I think this pool is really, really solid for him. But obviously the Decon still has a fighting chance on a lot of these picks.
I think, Intercamming has a few more picks in this pool. He has kind of the tapping stuff and kind of the gimmick stuff as well. I would say in general, I would anticipate him winning more of the gimmickier picks and like the hidden pool as well. Decon will need to make really good use of, I think, hard rock and maybe kind of like raw aim as well, which there isn't a whole lot of in this week's pool. So it's another situation where I think Intercamming just has a couple more picks. I think he'll end up with an easier time if the match goes long and we start to exhaust our options. I think Intercamming will have a somewhat easier time than Decon later on. And I still think it's probably like one break point, maybe two max, because this feels a lot like Decon versus MCY4 last week, where they're pretty evenly matched for the most part, and it ended up playing out exactly that way. But I think it goes, unfortunately for Decon, similarly, and I think Intercamming takes it like 6-3, 6-4.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I think that this is a very close match, and that I feel like Intercamming is going to be able to take this, but I think it's going to be very close. Um, I do think we'll probably see some bans out on the Hard Rock pool from Intercamming. Despite him usually self-declaring as a Hard Rock player, he tends to have more of an advantage on hidden against a lot of tournament players nowadays. And I feel like that's going to hold true for Decon as well. So we'll probably see one of the Hard Rock maps banned out and the other two picked up by Decon. We'll probably see Decon, I think, lean more into like alt aim control stuff. So the Nomad 3, the Hard Rock 1 and 3, assuming they're open, the Nomad 4 DT3 also actually is a very good pick for him. So I feel like there are picks for Decon for sure in this pool. So I don't actually know how it's going to go. Like I think this could still go either way. But all of those picks are still playable for Intercamming, so it is harder for me to give the win to Decon on a prediction than it is for me to give it to Intercamming. So I'm gonna say like 6-4, 6-5 Intercamming. Like I think this is going to be very close. I do think the speed abuse advantage helps Intercamming, and that's why I'm giving him the win here. If they were evenly matched on speed, I feel like I almost give it to Decon just based off of how ridiculously well he's been able to perform in some other tournaments. For example, the tiebreaker match versus Vaxay and MGC, right? Like he had some very, very good later stage performances. So I almost give him an edge a little bit on some of the more contested picks in this pool. So I think one thing to note is that I think early advantages are crucial for Intercamming in this matchup, because if you do lose one of those tapping picks, I feel like you have a very hard time forcing a break point out of Decon in this match.
This is actually really awkward because I was kind of expecting the panel to vote for Decon. I'm not gonna lie. Everybody knows that I support Intercamming in a lot of things, right? And I actually thought that Decon was gonna like beat Intercamming. Like maybe I'm crazy, but I was gonna vote Intercamming no matter what. But I think Decon has like a really strong shot of actually winning this match. He's super talented. And I think last week he just had a couple of underperformances, but he still played incredibly well. And but I still think Intercamming is gonna win 6-5. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the later this match goes, the better it is for Decon, because I think a lot of the, again, contested picks are going to be really good for him. But the earlier stages of the match, I think, are going to be crucial, and I feel like Intercamming has a good advantage there.
I will say as well for this match in particular, I think if this goes to tiebreaker, I think Decon actually wins. I think it's just a better TB for him. I think it's like polyrhythm alt aim control. It's something that Intercamming isn't really as comfortable on.
That's
so
true,
I think this is actually like Intercamming either wins 6-3 or 6-4 or loses 6-5, because I don't think he wins this tiebreaker. I think this is like similar to the worst HR MREC match where it's like the tiebreaker was just really good for him. So we just didn't expect it to get a tiebreaker, right? But I think if this matchup gets a tiebreaker, like I favor Decon for sure. I think it's his map.
We will see what happens. I think, yeah, I mean, like, it's gonna be close, and I think we're all agreeing in that. It's just a matter of, like, one pick could change it all. And with that, we're gonna be moving on to our prediction, which the panel has voted is gonna be Emre versus Intercambing. And I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, Inter, but if we're gonna be going against Emre, who is the favorite to win the tournament, it's not gonna go well. If we could get a clear of the predictions arrows.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I'm sorry. Emmerich 6-3 intercamming. Yeah, Emmerich's gonna win that match. Sorry. Next.
I already said what I wanted to say on the last one. Emmerich gets better as the pools get harder. He's my favorite to win the tournament, so I vote Emmerich. I think the hidden strategy is not going to work against Emmerich. Emmerich is a very good hard rock player. He's better on DT than intercambing. He's still pretty good at the alt and tech stuff. Don't see what to pick in this matchup.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Intercambing, who I have a lot of respect for, Emrek is kind of just as good or better at every single skill set. I'm sorry, it is what it is.
Yep. Don't need a long lengthy explanation. Yeah, Emre.
Yeah, also think it's fair to say that regardless of who wins between Intercamming and Decon, I think the outcome of this match is going to be the same. It's going to be the Emrek side winning, for sure. And I'm going to guess 6-1 as well, honestly. I think like if Emrek is prepared and he's played the pool already in the first match, I think he's just going to be, yeah, 6-1.
All right. So that wraps up our losers bracket matches. We're going to be going on to the winners bracket. The first of which is going to be Malashevsky versus Enry. And I think a lot of people, when they saw the 1-4 in seeding, they knew that this was going to happen eventually. And Enry has proven that he is a force to be reckoned with in the tournament scene. And he has proven time and time again that he is a talented tournament player and that he is so incredibly good at plenty of maps. However, Malashevsky is a fucking alien. And although I think the match will be close, I just think that Malashevsky has shown incredible prowess throughout the entire tournament, throughout his time just in the scene. And he is a favorite to go into grand finals against Emrek, and he had reached there before from the winners bracket. And I think that because of that, I'm going to go Malashevsky 6-4 against Enry.
Vorty, let's see a start.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is like the matchup I'm probably the most excited for the weekend, just because I think regardless of the outcome, it's going to be super high level. I think like you couldn't really ask for a better matchup. Both of these players have gotten the top 2 overall performances in the last 2 weeks, and like notably the highest. It's like Malashevsky's here, Enry's like right behind him, and then there's like a big drop off to the next one, right? Both of these players can play everything. They can play speed, they can play aim control, they can play raw mechanics, they can play gimmick. Like, there's no map here that is a freebie for anyone because both of them can play everything really well. I think this matchup is like, I'm basically rolling like a weighted die that's like slightly weighted towards Malashevsky just because he has played a little bit better in these past 2 weeks and his tournament history is just, there's more consistency there. There's more track record there. So I'm going to give it to Malashevsky on like tiebreaker or something. I think that's like the most accurate, assessment is. I think that's how far the match will go, right? On average, it's going to go far because if both of these players are playing really well, and both of these players, like Enry as well, is such a consistent player. I can't really remember the last time that they have had like a bad match, and same goes for Malice. So I'm hoping for a super close match. This is like the first match of the tournament, by the way, where I could completely accept if Malice lost, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense, right? Because Enry's good enough to beat him. I'm gonna give it like 60% odds to Malice, but 40's still pretty good. So I mean, yeah, this is gonna be a heater hopefully, but I think Malice is just proven to be a bit a bit of a monster, a bit of a boogeyman.
I want to say that Enry wins. I'm making the prediction that Enry wins tiebreaker. Honestly, I think I was looking at the tiebreaker because I think it's actually a little bit Enry favored. The speed of it, like obviously Malashevsky is not bad at speed by any means. But against Enry, I think he does have trouble. And when you're looking at a 252 BPM tiebreaker, it starts to become questions of how long can you keep up that consistency against a player who is a little more comfortable on that BPM. I agree that throughout the course of the match, we can probably end up getting the tiebreaker just because of how close these two players are to each other in terms of skill set and in terms of skill in general. But I would say just looking at the tiebreaker map alone, the way I see it is a little more Enry favored. So because of that, I would actually be inclined to say that Enry wins 6-5.
The tiebreaker may be 252 BPM, but that doesn't mean it's speed. Like
It's not speed, but
I
it's
looked at the
high
map.
BPM.
It's not speed. Like it's just not. So I don't think I disagree with that particular point of view on the TB. That being said, I do think that Enry has a pretty sizable advantage in terms of accuracy on speed. If you look at kind of the compared scores and performances, like Malashevsky can FC this stuff, but Enry can FC this stuff with like 99.5 AC. So I do think that he has the advantage on the speedier maps, but again, that kind of boils down to like Nomad 5, DT1, DT2. After that, I mean, Malashevsky's insane on this sort of Nomad 2. Like, he's really good at CMOB stuff. This matchup is really, really close. I think Malashevsky just has a slight edge in that he's a little bit more consistent on stuff that isn't maybe his 100% primary skill set. Like, once you get past the tapping stuff, I will expect Enry to be slightly less consistent on other maps. And I think that's where Malashevsky can swoop in and steal a breakpoint somewhere. And that's all it takes. I think Malashevsky is just that little tiny bit better. These two are very, very close at this point in time. But I think Malashevsky is just that little bit better. And I think he gets a breakpoint somewhere and wins it, and it's 6-4. And that's like literally all that separates them.
Now, I mostly agree, and I will be voting for Malashevsky in the prediction. But here's how Enry can still win. 4-4. Malashevsky picks DT3. Enry gets a breakpoint by like 20k because they're close enough on that style of map. Need I remind you about Hikari? And then Enry picks Nomad 2 as a last pick. He's practiced the Discord sliders and knows how to SS them. They both FC, but it's an act difference in favor of Enry because he can SS the Discord sliders in Nomad 2. Therefore, he wins Nomad 2 and wins the match.
That's based. That's
If it happens like that, I'm buying as many lottery tickets as possible. But I do still think Malashevsky is actually going to win. So, yeah. I would give it to Malice like 6-4 most times. If Enry wins this, I will not be surprised. But I will still say Malashevsky like screw it, 6-5. Like, this is probably the closest matchup of the weekend.
Yeah, this is like, watch this match. I don't care that it's at 12 UTC. You will watch this match.
You will watch this match.
Man, it's 6 a.m.
Yeah, sacrifices must be made for the greater good, Taikani.
Yeah.
My fault.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think where that
we're
wraps up
4-1
that-
on the board for Malice, but like this is reasonably
yeah.
the closest
I'm
match of the weekend.
expecting like 5 at least, like, or at most like probably like 50-60k difference in score. Like, that's how close I expect this match to be. But like Aaron said, the tiniest of differences make the world. And we're going to wrap up our predictions with our final match of the weekend, our second winner's bracket match. It's going to be worst HR player versus MCY for what what do I even say about this match, because they both kind of dodged the bullet with Malashevsky going up against Enry in semifinals. Had it been Malashevsky versus one of them and then Enry versus the other, I think they would have won this. They would have won the respective matches, but because it's worst HR player versus MCY4, it's a little bit more decisive. I still think Forum wins though, given that he is coming off of a win off of Emre on tiebreaker, and I think the train is going to continue to grow. And with that, I'm going to put Forum. I'll probably put the scoreline at like 6-3, 6-4. I still think that MCY4 is a tremendous player, and that he'll get a couple of points on him.
This is a weird matchup. I feel like this is one of those matches where either of these players could win it. They have an extremely similar skill set. The one thing I think that is going to separate these players and potentially decide the match is that worst HR player is an extremely good low AR hidden player. He top scored the low AR hidden in qualifiers. He has top scored the low AR hidden in round of 16. And he was not allowed to play low AR hidden in quarterfinals, nor was he allowed to play Nomad 6 in quarterfinals. MCY4's scores on those low AR maps are just not as good. So I feel like you give him the edge by like 1 point just because of that. And I feel like those points being a tad bit more guaranteed or a tad bit more probable for worst HR player is probably enough to decide this one. MCY4 is gonna have speed maps, sure, but generally when you look at a lot of alt maps, worst HR player is favored on those, and there's a lot of alt in this pool. So I think that combination of the low AR maps and the kind of alt favored pool is going to be really good for worst HR player here versus MCY4. I think if there were slightly more tech maps, maybe a little bit more tapping in the pool, I think I would favor MCY4 a little bit more.
You know, here's the thing about like speed and tapping in this matchup, right? It's that MCY4 isn't really that good at speed. He's good at Nomad 2s, but like Nomad 5 DT2 is not really his thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of detracts a little bit from the advantage that he may have had in that skill set if there were more than, you know, the single Nomad 2 210 BPM flow map that he'll feel comfortable with in this matchup in that skill set. Because, like I said, like Nomad 5 is 260 BPM tapping with a little aim. DT2 is just like 4 minutes of 255 BPM, like speed, stamina, finger control. So that's like not MCY4 stuff, which kind of just lends itself even more like those might get picked just to kind of coin flip them and see who can mash and double tap and stuff better. But other than that, like you said, there's a lot of alt and there's a decent amount of kind of gimmickier stuff. And that's all going to be favored to worst HR player. I mean, Nomad 3, Nomad 4, Nomad 6, the entire hidden pool, Hard Rock 1, Hard Rock 3. Like, it just feels like a lot of this stuff is either worst HR player favored or at worst, like, balanced. So I would just say that Forum has the advantage in general across enough of the map pool that it's 6-3 in his favor.
Yeah, I think there's also skill cap to note as well. I feel MCY4 last year was eliminated in the semifinals, once again staring down a map pool with an 8.3 star Nomad 1. And we saw a significant amount of skill cap that was kind of troubling him in his final match against Zudi Nader. Even though that went to tiebreaker, it looked like he was having a really hard time where I don't feel like Forum is going to meet that same level of skill cap as early as MCY4 is. And for that alone, I would favor worst HR player aside from the pool, just in terms of general difficulty. As good as MCY4 is, I think this might be the point where we're looking at a, knockdown to losers bracket just because worst HR player, I think, is just better favored at this SR than MCY4 is.
Yeah, I think that is a good point about the skill cap. Like, worst HR player on aim control, like, he plays the most cooked aim control in the entire game in solo. He's never going to be phased by aim control in a pool in terms of pure skill cap. On consistency, sure, but not on skill cap. I don't know what MCY4's skill cap is, and I don't know if this pool has reached it, but it's definitely going to start waning more in MCY4 than it will in Forum. Another factor I think is that notably, Worst HR player has gotten a lot better at speed, at bursty tapping, right? Compared to his raw stamina. And the speed in this pool leans a bit more into burstiness. Like this No Mod 2 easy breezy. It has one really big stream in the middle. But other than that, it's more on the bursty side and it's more focused on flow aim, which obviously Worst HR player is really good flow aim. So even a pick like No Mod 2, which on paper should be like heavy MCY4 favorite, and it probably still is, but it's now less favored, right? Same thing goes for like the DT2. It's very bursty. It is pretty aim focused as well, on top of having burst. I could definitely imagine Worst HR player getting like 400, 500k on that, and maybe it's not a pick for MCY4, unlike the last week's DT2, which would have been. So I don't think MCY4 has much that is like, there's like not much tapping abuse you can do, right? If Worst HR player bans No Mod 5 because the stamina is too much maybe, then everything else is pretty contested, and then the aim control is just favorite to him. So I think potentially this might not be that close. This could be like 6-2, 6-3 even.
That's a lot of Forum.
That is a lot
Yeah.
of Forum.
That's quite a bit of Forum. Kind of a shame that there isn't like a normal for MCY4. It's kind of a shame that there isn't like a normal No Mod 2 and then like maybe a streamy like Hidden or Hard Rock or something. I feel like that would help him out a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
a traditional like Knowledge King No Mod 2 would be really, really good for MCY4. I mean, it'd probably just get banned, but like that maybe would open something else up. Who knows? Yeah, it's like a function of the pool that like on these pools, like if you're a really good gimmick player, you have a pretty big advantage because there's just not a lot of the raw mechanic stuff.
I mean, to be fair, there's still a decent amount of like aim mechanics, but Worst HR player is just really good at that as well.
Yeah,
So
Worst
Yeah.
player is
Yeah.
so good at aim and like any type of aim really. Aim like
Yeah.
ult aim, no one aim, aim control, like just whatever. He
it's
will put
really
his
just
cursor
been,
on the circle.
yeah, it's just been tapping. It's been his issues, but he's gotten so much better at it. Actually, it's doomed for OWC. Like if he gets really good at tapping
He gets
in
good
like
at
5
tapping.
months, it's cracked.
If he was good at tapping 7 months ago, South Korea
They
just
would have won.
wins.
Yeah. On tiebreaker.
Yep.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah, and I think with 4 votes across the board, that is the end of our predictions. So first match is going to be Saturday 12 UTC. That's the beginning of our losers bracket match. That's going to be Emre versus Zudi Nader. And then after that, we will have Kriller versus Chicone at 15, Flying Tuna versus Taquito at 17, and then Decon versus Intercamping at 23. So that's going to be all of Saturday. And we will have all of these schedules posted on Twitter, hopefully within the next 24 hours. And we hope to see you guys there. Exclamation point schedule in the Twitch chat if you care to look at it. All the times are in UTC. We hope to see everyone there. Lots of exciting matches this week. And this is Full Circle. I've been Kay, and we will see you next time.